Hey, everyone. So there actually have been a lot of large tech industry incidents this year. And as I was putting together this talk, I wanted to talk about all of them because a lot of the stuff that David was mentioning, there's a lot of great things to look forward to, right? We can be more efficient, we can leverage AI more, but reliability is still something to keep in mind. In fact, one of the biggest incidents of 2023 was ChatGPT. We also had Reddit and Datadog. Reddit's still going on right now. And so I rejiggered my talk a little bit, actually, to looking back to look forward and what unexpected situations can actually do to our bottom line. And I think there's so much great stuff happening in the tech industry right now, but it's also important to think about how that plays into our business, how that plays into our people, because along with all this new stuff, as David was mentioning, comes new expertise that needs to be built. I'm imagining you don't just have a bunch of ML and AI engineers sitting on your staff. People are growing and learning that. And not only that, they're learning how to work with those systems and learning how to be a teammate to those systems. And so when I say incident, I mean anything that causes us to stop what we're doing and coordinate with people in our company, which happens every day in every company in some form or another. And we all react to these things, but we don't always take the time to learn from them. There's always something to learn. I'm curious, people that have, maybe not in this last year, given the economy and where we're at and stuff, but I'm curious if anyone's seen job recs open up at their previous companies after a large incident, or like jobs change or roadmaps change. It happens a lot. And our reactions to them are expensive. And they're expensive when we don't actually learn from them. We're creating new roadmap items. We're maybe reprioritizing roadmap items. We might be hiring people. We might be firing people. And it might not happen the day after this incident, but it happens over time. And it's hard to actually trace it back to that point, too. And you can automate learning with Gen AI, but you can't automate learning with Gen AI, but you can collaborate with it. There's certain things we have to be careful of when we're looking at the post-incident process or even the incident process in general. You don't want Gen AI to eliminate the cognitive work because that's actually how orgs get better, especially in incidents, in places that can be used to build expertise in your organizations. We want to collaborate with Gen AI and be very selective about the things we choose to automate. So I'm Nora Jones, and I won't spend too much time on this because David gave me a nice introduction. I've worked at Netflix, Slack, Walmart, Jet.com, a number of startups, and I've been in incidents and reliability my whole career, on the software engineering side, on the site reliability engineering side. In each company I've worked at, I've seen this kind of dichotomy between how leadership thinks about incidents and how individual contributors think about incidents. And when there's a lot of them happening, that divide kind of gets quite big. And so I wanted tooling that could help me bridge those communication gaps. I wanted tooling that could help everyone improve, help leaders understand ICs, help ICs understand customer service, help everyone kind of work better together. Because I saw those things happening. I saw roadmap items getting created that maybe didn't need to, or whole new teams expanding that maybe didn't need to as a result of a situation like that. And I actually attended this event last year, and I'm so stoked to be standing here today and speaking at this. It's a really, really great conference. So this is Jeli. I won't go too much into it, but this is like kind of how we formed the idea of creating that communication gap and bridging that communication gap. We help you learn from your incidents the whole way through, from incident response to incident analysis, with a huge focus on the people and coordinative pieces so that you can run more efficiently. We're all here today because the industry is changing. We've been through a ton in the last 3 years, and yet we're all kind of expected to provide the same output, but maybe sometimes with less resources, maybe even a higher output. And we're here to share and learn from each other and learn about how to adapt. We're all trying to do a little bit more with less right now, too. And the people that report to you are kind of experiencing a lot as well, in ways that you might not be privy to, and you're experiencing things in ways they might not be privy to. So today's talk, I'm going to talk about why organizational expertise matters to your bottom line, how you can improve it by being intentional about it, and examples of building organizational expertise through an incident. So learning from incidents, I've mentioned this a few times, it asks us not why something happened, but why did it make sense for us to do it this way? And asking this is actually allowing us to work better together. It's allowing people to not work so much in silos, but work better with their teammates so that these incidents can get resolved faster in the future, so that people can work better together on projects. It's not really about the incident. It's about creating a more efficient organization. And asking this question and posing questions like this after incidents comes from a point of curiosity rather than a point of fixing, which opens up this whole new world of opportunity. So we have 3 parts to this talk today. Part 1 is how we got to this point as an industry, right? We focus a lot on fixing. We're all moving fast. That makes sense. We want to fix things. We want to provide a good customer experience. But there's low tenures in our industry. We turn over folks pretty quickly. It takes a while to ramp up on a new system, even if you're a stellar engineer and you come to a new company. And so we're kind of limiting ourselves as an industry in that way too. I'm going to take us through actually 2 incident investigations and how they were done separately and how they can improve expertise. And then we'll talk through how we can improve. So let's talk about why learning from incidents is important. And I'm going to do this through an example story of a company. So this company is, a fictional company I've invented. They might be pre-product market fit, not a lot of users, small amount of employees, no incidents really. But they do have things they need to coordinate on and things that make them drop everything and fix it right then and there. So let's say we have 4 people at this company. I've very creatively named them Person A through Person D. So Person A says, hey, I'd like to use this new technology to get us to do this project. We'll be more setups for success. It's really easy. I think it's going to make me go faster. Person B says, okay, if it's easy, let's do it. Person C says, is it actually easy? I'm not that familiar with it. It is easy. I'll teach you all. It's fairly straightforward. This happens all the time in startups, right? Like we're all trying to get through things quickly, and you can see how expertise evolves when it's a giant organization too. And so at this point, you don't have a new challenger approaching, you have a new expert approaching. Person A is now the de facto expert in this piece of technology. Person B has a little bit of expertise, and Person C might have some as well, and Person D is doing other things. There's no more than 3 people needed on this project. Now, months pass, and the feature that new technology was used for was a huge hit, exciting, right? And it's generating a lot of demand for their product or their feature that they built, so that means they hire more people. And the expertise from Person B and Person C actually slowly dwindles and goes all the way back to Person A again. But what's actually happening is as the product and as the company is expanding, the use of new technology is expanding. And what Person A understands about it has actually dwindled quite a bit. And this is where things get dangerous. Maybe all in the organization, maybe everyone thinks Person A knows everything, and maybe Person A thinks they know everything they can, but they're actually just doing a small bit now. As the complexity of a system increases, any single user's or agent's model of the system really changes over time. And so we hire a lot more people, and all the expertise slowly evaporates, and it's kind of connected in a bunch of different places. And then an incident happens. So maybe Person C is the first one on the scene in the incident. And they remember a little bit about this piece of technology, but it was implemented 3 years ago, and they haven't really touched it since. And so as we have all these new people in the organization, we maybe don't know each other as well, and we don't know each other's expertise as well. Maybe we're meeting for the first time in an incident, too. And so we pull all these people in, and Person C remembers, oh, Person A knows the most about this piece of technology. And so they bring them into the incident. And so it gets resolved, and an incident review happens, but they're busy, they're moving fast, their business is growing, and it only involves a small group of people, and it actually doesn't involve Person A. Person A is really busy, they have expertise in a lot of areas, not just this particular area. And management gets a high-level report with metrics and things that are going on with the incident. All these parties engaged in the incident response have very different goals and very different priorities. There might be CS folks in there, marketing folks in there, sales, engineering. They all have different things they're worried about. And sometimes we don't actually know these people. The way we maintain close contact at the beginning of a company is very different than how we're maintaining contact now. And so over time, Person A is actually involved in almost every incident that involves this piece of technology. They're incredibly valuable to the organization. They have a rich skill set, but as they manage this piece of technology, the organization grows and grows. Maybe they're automating part of it, and their limited knowledge actually dwindles around them, and it's easier for them just to jump into every incident and fix it. I'm sure we all know a Person A. Maybe we've been a Person A. Maybe we are right now. Right? It's easier for me to just do it myself rather than teach you. I don't have time. And that's where orgs get into a lot of trouble too, is that they expect Person A to be the one to teach all these people. But the thing about Person A is an expert. And they don't really remember what it's like to be a beginner at this piece of technology. And so they are inherently very bad at teaching people about it. And so where orgs get this mixed up is they put all that onus on Person A. Maybe they even block their promotion until they start teaching more people about what they know, right? But the trick is to actually encourage those around them to ask them questions in ways that unearth that expertise a little bit more, which is what I'm going to dive into now. You can't meaningfully improve the expertise of people without looking at the cognitive work. And when I say that, I mean looking at what Person A is looking at during their incidents. What dashboards are they pulling up? Why did they pull up that dashboard first? What logs did they look into? Why did they look into those logs first? Being able to ask Person A those silly questions, or maybe seem silly, maybe you feel like you should know them, those are what builds more expertise around you. But this is itself work. This is not stuff that you should use Gen AI to automate. It's stuff that you can maybe actually bubble up and say, here are the portions of Person A's expertise. But incident reviews can be also a little uncomfortable, right? It's really hard to say, I don't know this, and I know you do. It's hard to ask someone for clarification. It's hard to tell someone they're wrong. It's hard to not be sure, or have your boss loitering around, or maybe with the folks in this room being a boss loitering around. It's hard to have that psychological safety to be able to have these conversations. And so I've always kind of wanted an artifact in the middle of these conversations so you're not losing your social relationship with these folks at work. So let's jump into part 2. So today I'm going to take you through a semi-true account of 2 cases, 2 incidents, and spoiler alert, they're the same incident. This incident is, semi-true. It really helped me underscore the value of understanding cognitive work through the lens of incidents and just how much data we're leaving on the table. I came to do this comparison study because in a past role, I was actually tasked with doing an incident that had already been reviewed and asked to put a different spin on it. So the first investigation I'll take you through was the incident review for this and all the findings that came out of it. And the second investigation is the same incident, but with fresh eyes, a different perspective, and a new review. And we're going to go deep and a little technical for a second, but I promise you I'll come back out and kind of tie everything together. So this investigation, it was a seemingly innocuous incident that didn't have much customer impact and didn't deserve a thorough review. This happens all the time, right? We have to make trade-offs. We have to make decisions about doing the incident review versus moving on with our work. Because let's face it, we did not plan this in our roadmap. It was not scheduled. This incident investigation had a templated approach. It was completed by the members of the team most involved in the incident. And the purpose was to file and report and add to our metrics. The template looked something like this, which is a very standard template in our industry. But I am curious, who is this template for, right? There's so many different audiences with incident reviews. There's the engineering team that is learning about what happened. There's maybe their CS and sales colleagues that need to know what to tell the customers. There might be the board, and maybe some of your executives, and then ultimately your customers. That's a lot of audiences. But yet the audience we prioritize the least is helping the engineers learn. right? They have to do this first before they do anything else, and at that point, they're kind of burnt. But that leads to us over-bloating our organization, not investing as much in our people. It leads to them burning out quite quickly. What we don't see with templates like these is how much time was spent on the document, who read it, who attended the meeting, what the purpose of it was, what was difficult or easy about handling the incident. So I'll just kind of go quickly through this. So the incident summary, so we're in a fictional e-commerce company, and a change was made to the search infrastructure tooling, which updates which search index to look at each day. We were able to recreate the issue, and soon after it had been reported, engineering was able to track down the problem and fix the bad config. Due to the nature of the bug, no pre-processing work had to be done for search to be functional again. More detailed summary, we get a little bit more details on the SKUs, which are stock keeping units, and a little bit more details about when our collections are created. This kind of looks like it's written to be filed, right? I don't feel like the engineers that's writing this is really learning much from it. Then we get to the timeline, pretty standard timeline, but I'm not seeing who was involved here. I see no names, I see no teams. I see just plain statements, right? And this, if I'm a new engineer, this is not help, or even an adjacent engineer to this team, this is not something that's helping me do my job better. This timeline alone doesn't really give me much. Impact, all e-commerce users had a degraded experience for 20 minutes. Contributing factors, lack of type system, and alert that would have detected this is also broken. Lack of, this is a little bit of a normative language. Like, what does lack of mean? Like, obviously, I know it was insufficient. We had an incident. Alert that would have. Well, if it would have, it would have. Also, you could put these contributing factors in any incident that has ever happened. What went well? Fairly quick fix. I don't know what fairly quick means in this org. Right? It said 20 minutes. Is that good? Is that bad? What happened during those 20 minutes? What went wrong? An alert that should have caught the misconfiguration was also broken. I don't know what's going on with this mouse. And should have, right? If it should have, it would have fired. This kind of language doesn't help us understand the cognitive work. It's not helping engineers learn. It's not helping future readers of this document learn. Heck, I bet there's not even a lot of readers of this document presently. So again, who is this for? How we got lucky. Happened during a low traffic time. What does low traffic mean in this org? Is my understanding of low traffic the same as yours, the same as CS, the same as sales? Do we all share that? And action items. Fix the bug, fix the alert, check all of our alerts, add gates. These could also be added in any incident, and they are probably sitting on a Jira backlog, still. I want to share a quote from Christine Jeffries on David Proven's maturity model. The more compliance-focused senior leadership is in an organization, the less deference happens to expertise in the business. David Proven's maturity model has over 500,000 points in it. And the data shows that this pattern has the more compliance-focused senior leadership is in an organization, the less deference to expertise. Senior leadership gets more compliance-focused when they're having more incidents. Sometimes they'll hire someone that's kind of basically like a chief apology officer. I'm sure we've kind of all been in orgs. Those folks tend to have low tenure. They add a lot of gates. It's not actually helping. The less deference to expertise happens in the business, so that means the decision-making that the organization is doing becomes driven by hierarchy instead of by expertise. And so we know skilled practitioners find a way to create successful work despite these bureaucratic environments, and this is when things get sneaky and we really overbloat our organizations and it's a little bit chaotic. But leadership preoccupied with compliance may indicate undervaluing that crucial expertise too. And so it's really important for us to keep in mind there are still people working at our orgs in spite of AI, in spite of everything that's happening, and they're still gonna have to become experts in it. So I'm curious what questions you have about incident one, and just think about them for a second, because that was the whole review. If you were working in this org, if you were a customer, a CS person, if you were on the board, what kind of questions would you still have about it? Or if you were an engineer too? And so in search incident 1, this is kind of how the expertise went down. And so over time, because of not doing incidents like this, you actually end up bloating your org quite a bit. You end up hiring a lot of people because you're not investing in the expertise of the individuals that are already there. And so it almost looks like you need more people when in reality you don't. So investigation 2, there's always a little bit more to it. So this was conducted by an engineer outside of the main team, fresh perspective. It included teams impacted but not previously involved, and it informed new team members about system dynamics. Purpose was to engage the audience and to be read. It was about learning rather than about reporting. So the template kind of looked like this, and it's based loosely off of the Jeli Howie Guide, which is a free resource we have online on how to do cognitive style incident reviews, even in a compressed time frame too. So what really stands out about incident 2 is we are looking at the raw data rather than someone's summary of what happened. They're looking at how people spoke to each other, who came in, why they came in. So the incident started actually in this channel called Key Updates, where engineer Justin Bacon was receiving requests related to a key change release. And between November 23rd and November 30th, so they had to change some keys, and they were getting alerted because certain keys were invalid, but it was a false alert. So the search team kept getting woken up at like 2 in the morning, and it was really frustrating, right? They were all really tired. They were working really hard. So they introduced a PR to silence the noisy alerts. As a result of this changes, it was to not alert if the key is invalid. They weren't expecting that. And then the partition was created to hold indices, usually created 2 days in advance. And then a second PR was introduced not to update the read aliases. It was a result of some cleanup work, taking a minute longer than necessary, adding a little bit to a PR. And then, so between December 4th and December 6th, when the partition gets created, there's a bunch of alerts, but there's no pages because of PR 22. Both of these things had to be true for the incident to occur. And this is where user search queries began not reaching the partition, so we know why it broke, but we also know that they weren't getting alerted about it. So now we're gonna jump into another channel called spam detection, where Connor Jacobs is working on automation to stop some competitors that are scraping the website to get prices of these SKUs. And he's posting here, he's deploying some marketing site changes, adding some status to tests, it's looking good, let's move on. Oh, search is not returning a SKU. Seems like normal behavior. I'll just move on to my second deploy because he didn't really touch search. And now we're going to actually jump into a third channel called customer experience. Now, most of the time when we're in incidents, we're talking in a Slack channel, a Zoom recording. We're talking somewhere, right? We're coordinating places. But there was not much left about coordination on the first incident. So the customer experience channel is actually Natalie says that some customers can't access search items for the results of the promo email sent out yesterday. So now we know there was a promo email sent out for Black Friday, and now marketing was involved. So we have marketing involved, customer service involved, search involved. We have a lot of teams involved at this point. Even though it was a seemingly innocuous incident, it's still quite expensive internally. Looking at it and managing them, seems like it's not an obvious down. Connor, because he just saw this, happens to notice it really quickly, jumps in, says it was what I was seeing earlier. I'm going to page the search team. I can't figure out how to page, so I'm going to page all of them. So all of the search team joins quite quickly. So now we're actually in the incident, well after we're learning all of this. And all the engineers joined quite quickly because guess what? Connor has been at the organization for 6 years. He was the second employee. He's able to get all these people in a room quite quickly because he contains some modicum of power. All this stuff is important to know because it includes our org dynamics. It wasn't just happenstance that the incident took 20 minutes and it was easy. It was because all these people knew how to coordinate and work together. And understanding these things helps us work together in the future. So we finally get to the search incident channel, and all of it resolves quite quickly. They all know what's going on because they were all involved in the PRs, because the entire search team was on in the incident. That's not tenable, right? Like, it's not tenable to have the whole search team on every incident. And when we look at the actual timeline of the event, it's not as linear as we might think. There's a lot of different places. There's red herrings that were happening. There's hypotheses that were happening. There's when we thought we repaired it, but we didn't actually repair it. These timelines are engaging, and they help people read them, and they help people learn more about search. The people that are creating these documents outside of the search team or reading them are now all of a sudden learning more about how search works, learning more about how CS works, learning more about how marketing works, which improves not just incidents in the future, it improves everything. It improves how we work together. And so some key takeaways from the incident, there were multiple notions of what it meant for search to be working. Incident handling excellence was influenced by team cohesiveness and collaboration, and the fact that Connor was involved and he was an early employee, and a quick awareness of the issue at hand. And so when you look at like how the search team started in this incident, we can actually lead to a better outcome where more people are learning how this works. And you're still hiring and you're still growing, but maybe not at an untenable rate. Like maybe not at a rate where not everyone knows what's going on or how to interact with each other. And so some comparison metrics on these two events, one might have taken 45 minutes to evaluate, one was a little longer. One took 20 minutes to resolve. The other dates 3 weeks back to the event. Contributing factors in the first one, 2, 8 in the second. Action items that got completed, 2, 6 in the second one. There's a lot of differences between these, but I really want to point out to the readers of the document, there are 140 people that read this document versus 10. And so that little extra time that you spend can actually pay dividends in the long run, right? It pays dividends in how we think about search. Maybe it helps you with a future search incident. Maybe it helps you implement a roadmap item. Maybe it helps you avoid over-hiring. But like I saw the value of all of this work, but a week is not something that we can spend on every incident, right? I wanted tooling that could actually help bubble this up for me. And this is something that we really created Jeli for too. It's meant to help you take a learning and cognitive-based approach in like a very small amount of time. And so I'm curious, which incident is less expensive, right? Is it number 1 or number 2? And so looking at that, I want to kind of take us back to what's next, right? And I hope you look at this and you take action, whether you're person A, person B, person C, or you're managing all of them. Working to understand how experts think creates more experts, and it helps your business in the long run if you're investing in people's expertise. They stay. They stay and they know your system, right? They operate it better because of that. This is how you scale these people. So just some tips for learning more. Use more than a customer impact to warrant a review. Make it engaging, create a record. Schedule and make time for learning. Don't break your promises to learn. Put the responsibility of running the incident review outside of the expert. Leadership needs to support this. And make it easy to learn. So making it engaging, not a linear timeline that you're just boringly following, like actually something that people want to look at. Because doing this can give the writer of the document more expertise. The writer of that incident now learned about search. You have a new person that understands how search works. They can become training documents. They can inform a lot of things, but ultimately they can create more experts. Regardless of if we're doing incident reviews, I know everyone's bubbling up metrics. But the thing is about putting garbage data in is you're going to get garbage data out. And if you're basing a bunch of stuff on metrics that you're not investing in the individual points in, you're going to be making false decisions on them. It's quite frankly a losing game. And so when we invest in learning approaches, we can actually have better metrics overall. So my challenge question for you is, how are you making time and space for expertise in your organization so that it can be used for incidents, Gen AI, beyond? I'll be around all day. Come find me. And then the resource I mentioned is free online, Jeli Howie. Thank you so much.